Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Molehill Mountain podcast, the podcast that you are listening to right now. This is episode 31. I am Andrew Eisen, and with me is Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, Andrew. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm okay. I just got back from vacation, and I've been, uh, it's interesting. I went to the gym Thursday, and which was not my first time working, going to a gym and working out, but it was my first time back at World's Gym, which is where I really push it. And oh man, I barely made it an hour, and I was like, I was so oxygen starved. My body was like, "What are you doing? You can't take a 2.5 week break and want to, press heavy weights. You evil person, stop it." Um, so it's weird. I haven't lost any of my strength, but I get really winded and tired a lot easier than I did a mere
Hmm.
2.5 weeks ago. So that's
Yeah,
that's weird. But other than that, getting back in the routine and enjoying my Christmas presents. So,
that's good.
uh, and for those wondering, I will have a Santa was good to me video again this year. I know some of you really look forward to that every year. Not sure why, but I'm glad you do. Uh, it's not going to be available until I think like the first week of February, because my sister's coming out at the end of the month, and we're going to do a gift exchange and film a Santa was good to us kind of video. So uh, it's going to be late, but you get my
Hmm.
sister Kelly in the video, so that's worth it.
Nice.
Um, anyway, uh, how was your Christmas?
My Christmas was pretty good. So we let's see. Sorry, we just had a small Christmas here at here at our house. Uh, we had my wife's sister over with some of her kids and celebrated Christmas with them, and then had Christmas dinner with some friends of ours, and so nothing too big, because we did a big family Thanksgiving with my family. Uh, they just they Everybody went their own way for Christmas, so that's what we ended up doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, not too bad. I got a new hat. I don't know if you guys can see this. It's a nice little
Zelda.
Legend of Zelda hat. So I I'm happy
Nice,
now.
nice. I don't have a hat, but I should.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been trying to decide what kind of hat I wanted, because I always wear a hat, and
Mhm.
I've got a hat that I got at my first programming job working for the Air Force, um, and uh, and so I got a hat from the unit that I worked with as a contractor, and then I've got a hat that I have a patch from when I worked at Boy Scout camp, and I just sewed the patch onto a blank hat. And so I was just thinking to myself, it's like I need a nice geeky hat, one that is more video gamey and more fits me, and so surprisingly, hats are very hard to like ball caps like this are very hard
Mhm.
to find. Walmart has some, but the ones that they typically have are flat build
Mhm.
with, and then they have actual images on the bill, and I don't like that. I think they're totally stupid,
Mhm.
and I want a uh, hat with a bill that's nicely rounded and
Conforms to
bent,
the
like
shape of your head, right?
yeah, and
Now, if our heads were perfect squares, it would make sense to have a completely flat bill,
yeah,
but our heads are
exactly.
fairly oval, so
Yeah, and then my other thing is I hate hats with snapbacks. The plastic
yes.
snaps on them, because those things always break.
Are
And
you a Velcro man?
It depends. It depends on the hat. Sometimes I'll go with Velcro. Sometimes I'll get the ones with the buckles.
Hmm.
But
Kind of
this
like
one
a
that I'm
belt, yeah.
yeah, this one is actually a has an elastic band on the inside of the
Oh, okay.
on the inside of it. So it's a one size fits most type hat. So it's not quite a fitted hat, but it um, doesn't have a strap or anything on the back. So it's quite nice. Took me a little bit to get used to wearing it because this is the first time I've ever had one with an elastic band in it.
Mm.
But not too bad. What did my kids get for Christmas?
And how much of
Let's
it
see.
is broken now?
How much? Let's see. My son, my oldest son, he got Minecraft Story Mode because he's a big Minecraft fan. So he got
Hmm.
Minecraft Story Mode this year, and he's had fun playing it. I haven't had the chance to sit down and play it. I want to play it too, and I haven't really had a chance to sit down and watch him play. But I've watched a little bit of it, and and uh, and yeah,
That's the Telltale Adventures
yeah,
series, right?
Telltale Adventure, and so I want to play it, but I haven't had the chance, he wants to beat it first,
Hmm.
but for some reason, I don't know why this is, but apparently the game is limited to 4 saves, and you can only create 4 save files, which is really odd to me considering I've got a 500 gig hard drive on my PlayStation 3, and there doesn't seem to be a reason to limit how many save files you can actually create on a video game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is odd. Uh,
Uh,
Now, for console games, back when there were cartridges, that made sense. But since
yeah,
all saves are
cartridges,
done to
memory
hard drives
cards,
now,
yeah.
it's just, I don't know, a block. They usually block out a finite amount of space for the amount of save files they have. Sometimes
Yeah.
one, usually three seems to be kind of the standard. But
Yeah,
it's
three
like,
tens.
would you? It just doesn't seem like it would be that big of a deal for. Would you like to create another block of, block out some more memory for another three save files? Yes, please. Okay. I don't know why that's an issue,
Yeah.
or it's just something that they don't think of. But it's not something that's really useful to me personally, but that's just the way I game. But I do know a lot of people who, um, a number of, like
Mhm.
you, who live in a house with a lot of different people who each may want their own save file. So,
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's only 4 save files per profile because I haven't actually created any profiles on my PlayStation 3
mm,
other than the main one because there
yeah.
just doesn't seem to be a need for me to do that. So yeah. So maybe if I created a second profile, there would be another set of 4 save files, but that if you log in that profile, you can't access the saves on the other profile. I don't know,
Mm.
um, but so yeah, that's kind of odd. But let's see other things that my kids got. My youngest son, or my younger son, he's 1.5, and he got a Little Tykes basketball goal, and it's just this plastic basketball goal. At its lowest setting, it sits at about the hoop is about 4 feet off the ground, and it's still too tall for him. He's and so he
Hmm.
has to stand on a stool in order to be able to shoot baskets, but he loves it to death.
Great.
At the tallest, it goes up to I want to say 7 feet, I think, at its tallest adjustable setting. So those are um, so he loves that, and he's got a bunch of balls and a and uh, forget what those dolls are called. My Life dolls, I think. They're these little 1.5, 2 foot tall dolls that are 18 inches, so 1.5. They and he got one,
Is
and
it
he likes
creepy?
it.
Is it a
No, no,
creepy
it's not.
doll?
It's not like
Is it like
a.
really scary in the dark?
No, no.
Just watch
Surprisingly,
you
it's
from the
not like a
shadow.
My Buddy. It's not creepy like My Buddy. It's just a. It's just a neat little doll. He likes it. He when he got it, he would sit it next to him so that he could hang out with it and stuff. But and then my girls, they got a bunch of Monster High dolls. They're really into that Monster High show. I don't know why,
Mm.
but
I like the design. I think the
yeah.
aesthetic is cool. I've never seen it before, but
Oh,
I
the shows are so grating. I
oh, is
don't
it terrible?
I don't like sitting through them.
Oh.
It's not the worst thing ever, but
Oh, I've just seen it on shirts and lunch boxes at
yeah,
Target and Walmart. So. 13 Cube says Teddy Ruxpin used to scare the hell out of me, and I was almost a teen when they came out. They are kind of creepy.
nice.
Going
Yeah,
through the chat, Jordan points out that he's 22, but now that he works 8 to 10 hour shifts at work, he's noticed his binge gaming parties is a young man's game. So, did I need a recovery process after the 24-hour stream I did but back in November? Yeah, I need. It's funny. You think you're just going to nap for 36 hours straight or something, but I was up a couple hours after the stream. Mainly, my sister and I were uh, or figuring out how we were going to uh, figure out our time because she was going to see a friend that evening, and then we were going to do something later, and then she had to leave the following morning, and I had to go to work, and so after we figured that out, I slept for probably 3 or 4 hours, and then was up till bedtime, and then I went to bed and got up and went to work the next day. So you never really make up all the when you skip a
yeah,
night's sleep. It's not like you sleep 16 hours the next time. You sleep. Usually, it's I take a couple hours nap and then I just sleep the next night and
yeah. That's
go to bed.
really all you can do is just get yourself back into your routine.
Yeah.
Um, it's like with jet lag. I found, with me, jet lag isn't an issue because
Mm,
I just say, okay, here's 10 o'clock. I'm going to bed. It doesn't matter, when I went to bed last time. It's just like, here's 10 o'clock. I'm going to bed, and I'm usually good right after that. I don't typically have a problem with jet
mm.
lag, but
13U Cube asks, did someone lose a false advertising suit to change one size fits all to one size fits most? Uh, I don't. That's an interesting thought. Yeah, you usually
yeah,
do see one size fits most, and I wonder if there was a suit. I didn't hear about it if there was, but
yeah,
it could
I don't
just
know.
be it could just be public pressure, people thinking, well, all someone's going to sue us, so we better
Yeah,
get it. So it might be someone, getting out in front of that, nipping it in the bud.
yeah,
If there was a lawsuit over that, I hadn't heard of it.
yeah. I haven't heard anything
Matthew
about it.
asks if I'm going to watch the Switch event on Thursday. Well, of course I am.
Yes. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm going to as well.
and well, the nice thing about it is it's late at night, so
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock
it's
my
not
time.
while
So,
I yeah, it's 8 mine, so I'll be home from
yeah.
work. And due to someone on Twitter, a couple people actually messaged me on the various social media platforms saying, "Are you going to do a reaction video to the Switch event?" I'm like, it's I'm sure it's longer than 2 or 3 minutes. This is probably going to be 30, 40 minutes at least, if not an hour.
Probably.
Do you
Because
really
they're
want?
going to have to talk about the system. They're going to have to talk about launch
Yeah.
games,
And
pricing, all that stuff. Yeah.
and I linked to my the that 2.5 minute Switch commercial that came out in October. I linked to my reaction video to that. I'm like, do you really want to see me do this for 40 minutes? And I ran a poll on Twitter, and most people said, "Yeah, we want to see you look bored for half an hour." I'm like, okay. I don't know if I'll stream that. So I'll record my reaction to it. I don't know if I'll stream that live because I think most people would really rather watch the presentation than
Yeah.
watch me watch the presentation. So I may just record my reaction and upload it,
Uh
maybe
huh.
maybe at 4 times speed
Yeah.
because or maybe just skip around to if I like raise an eyebrow or do or go oh, but I probably won't because I'm just not the kind of
Yeah.
person that goes, oh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I just, that's, I
Yeah.
mean, I might smile or laugh or go, ah, or hey, cool, or yeah. No, I'm not very vocal or when I watch something, I'm just, I watch it and I might nod or I might laugh if there's something funny, but I'm not a very I don't react big, but most people who responded to the poll, like I think it's 80% of the people who responded to the poll. It's only like 25 people who voted. I don't have that big of a
Yeah.
reach, but uh, you know, if there's 20 people who really want to see my reaction to something, yeah, I'll record it. That's cool. Um, so Matthew says I feel bad for the people in Europe who want to watch the Switch. What is it not available to watch in Europe? Oh, because of the
No, it's
time
just
thing.
gonna
It's
be,
on. It's on the middle of the night, right? It's on
yeah.
like really early in the morning.
See, at 10 o'clock my time, I'm 6 hours behind Greenwich Mean Time.
Mhm.
So yeah, it'll be 4 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
for England.
But
So
there's also the Treehouse live event the following morning, which I think for me is like 6:30 in the morning. So that kind of sucks because yeah, I'll definitely get up and watch that too. Um,
yeah.
Game
So
Explain is good at taking the best out of it. Yeah, Andre and his crew are pretty great. I know Andre because we competed for the same job once and he got it. So Sammy says, "Hi Andrew, how are you? How is your sister? I don't see her next to you. Where is she? She's up in Acton, where she lives. She doesn't live here with me. She just happened to be visiting the I think it was the last time I was on the no, one of the she was in the background putzing around on one of the
one of them, yeah. I forget
an
which one
episode
it
a
was.
few weeks ago, but yeah, she's not here right now. She'll be back down in a few weeks, and you'll see a Santa knows best. Santa knows best. That's the name of a play I did in fifth grade. Santa was good to me. Probably a video game fashion police. I think we're going to shoot one of those. So. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. Click the gray money box in chat to make Andrew react. Really? What? Uh,
See, Jordan Thompson asks, um, says he recently had a society building idea that he learned was a real thing called socialism. Do I have an opinion on it? On
I have an
socialism
opinion on it.
or
It worked for
society
some.
building idea? I don't. You would have to explain what exactly you want my opinion
Socialism in
on.
general. It works for some things. It doesn't work for others.
Socialism works when it's the size of a family unit, but the size of a country, it tends to not work so well. But there, that's my opinion.
Let's see. Don't know if I saw, but one codename Z says, "Don't know if you saw, but one guy took the first trailer Switch reaction videos, and the whole comment section asked, "Are you brain dead?" Um, if you're talking about someone did a compilation video of various Switch reveal reactions. So the video played in the center, and there were just windows along of different reactions. And there's a guy in this go, "Oh my god!" A guy over here, "Oh my god!" Me over here, and the comments are for I think the guy on the left has died.
Uh,
So if that's the video you're talking about, yeah, I did see it. I thought it was really funny. Because when I do a reaction, I try not to. Well, I mean, the why I don't do reaction videos, the one with the kittens. That one is staged. So the various reactions I have in that are I'm playing up the reaction or playing down the reaction, as the case may be. But when I do a legitimate reaction video, I'm not trying to perform for the audience. I'm trying, maybe it's not the best idea from an entertainment standpoint, but trying to uh, give my honest reaction, which I honestly kind of react like that. So,
Yeah.
um, everything seems to be going Nintendo's way. What are the odds they mess it up? I say 60% based on history. Uh, it kind of depends. I think usually what happens is Nintendo has a wonderful idea, but has all these niggling little issues surrounding them that just, you have this wonderful idea that's going to, going up, and then it's weighed down by all these dumb decisions. So we'll see. Let's see. I was on the middle left. Yeah, real or fake. Okay, so let's actually, now that we're 25 minutes into the show, let's actually talk about what we're
Only
going to talk
20.
about, and that was game. Oh, that's right, we did start a
Yeah.
little late. So games. We're going to talk about games, games that we've been
Yay.
playing over the last couple of weeks. So the first game I would like to discuss is
Alright.
a classic PS2 game from, I think, 2001 called Ico. Now, this is the Ico and Shadow of Colossus HD remaster for the PS3.
Yeah.
This is not a Christmas present. This is something I bought a couple months ago. And I took it out to Kentucky and Mom and I played Ico because I thought it'd be a fun game to play, just a nice, relaxing game. And we don't like it at all. And I feel like a bad gamer because this is one of those classic games that everyone looks back on fondly. I mean, that's like it's saying, you know what? I really don't like Mega Man 2. What? Um,
Well, it
well,
is
maybe
what,
not
a
Mega Man 2,
10-hour
maybe something like
exploration.
well, Shadow of the Colossus would be one. Saying you don't like Journey or Limbo, the really arty games that just really capture players and critics alike at the time, and is always looked back really fondly on. Now, Ico is, or Eco or Ico, I really have no idea how that's pronounced or what it's supposed to mean, but I just say Ico. So, how the game works is very common. There's exploration and there's combat. You're in a room. You use your elite parkour skills to get out of the room into the next room, where there's usually a fight with a bunch of shadow demons. So it's like Uncharted. You climb around a room until you get out. You get in the next room, bunch of guys come in, you fight all the guys. It's like Prince of Persia. You climb all over the walls and stuff to get out of the room. You get in the next room, bunch of monsters, fight them, repeat the process. Ico is exactly the same thing. Where it falls flat for me is the combat. In Prince of Persia, again, because the structure is very similar. If you remember the Sands of Time, I'm talking about now. If you remember when you battle the sand demon things in Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, the prince can slash and stab and jump over him and slash as he flips over him and rebound off walls and columns and swing around and dance and backstab and jump and backflip and all over the place. It's fun. Combat is actually fun in that game. Unless you hate it, then it's not fun. But I think the combat in Prince of Persia is varied, exciting, and fun and fun to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And it really feels like the same guy who's constantly showing these amazing acrobatic skills and sliding down poles and climbing, shimming across ledges and wall running and stuff. He fights exactly how you think that guy would fight. So it really ties together nicely. Now, Ico stars a 14, 15-year-old kid who, and this is something I learned, he's not wearing a hat with horns on it. He actually has horns. I did not know this. And it was like probably an hour into the game, well, maybe like half an hour into the game before he goes, well, you see, kids like me who are born with horns, we're discriminated against. And Mom and I are both, oh, that's not a hat. That's actually his head.
I always assumed it was a hat.
I thought he was wearing a really stupid hat. Oops. So, kind of a demerit for the design on that one, but because for some reason he has like this like cloth wrapped around his forehead, which really makes it look like he's wearing a horned hat.
Yeah.
But no, he's just got a bandage around his head and he's got horns growing out of it. Anyway, so imagine the Prince of Persia. Could only attack with you could swing a sword, and that's it. Couldn't jump, couldn't flip off walls, couldn't stab, couldn't backstab, couldn't climb over the guys, couldn't ankle slash. He could just go hump, hump. And now imagine it took 8 hits to kill every single thing. 1, 2, 3. Now imagine that these bad guys keep spawning from little black pools of goo, and you never know how many of them are there going to be. They just keep coming. You probably wouldn't look back as fondly on Prince of Persia as you might otherwise, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem I have with Ico. The boy has a 2x4 that he whacks shadow demons over the head with, which I actually like. I think that's just kind of a funny conceit in and of itself. Shadow demon, I whack you with a 2x4, which is kind of funny, but combat is so boring because that's all he can do. Every enemy takes about 8 hits, and you have no idea how many enemies are going to pop up. There was one room where so many enemies kept spawning from these portals that my mom and I both thought that we were doing something wrong. Like, are we missing something? Are we supposed to like set off a bomb to collapse a wall and bury the portal to stop the guys from coming? Do we have to attack the portal? And no, eventually the guys just stopped coming. It's like, there were just literally 20 guys in that scene. 20. It took almost 10 minutes for that one room. We only played the game for a little over 2 hours because we were both just like, I'm not having any fun, are you? No. So which is a shame because I like everything else about the game. I like the visuals, I like the simplicity, the aesthetic. I like the actual navigating around, and the conceit of the game is you're the kid with the horns, and there's other girl named Yorda who you have to lead out of the room. She can't climb like you can, so the puzzle is not only finding the exit and getting there, but making a path for her too. Although if I were to criticize, which I will, Yorda looks to be like a woman in her 20s, and she's kind of useless, and you kind of drag her around by the hand, which is really weird to see what looks like maybe a 14, 15-year-old boy dragging a grown woman around by the hand. If I were making the game, unless maybe there's a good story reason for it to be that way, and again, I didn't make it very far through the game. From what I hear, I made it about a quarter of the way through the game, short game. But I would have made her like 12. That visually makes it reads a lot better to me, dragging a 12-year-old around by the hand rather than a grown woman, which it just looks a little weird. I mean, it works. The game's fine, but except for the combat, which, oh man, is it dull. Also, it's a game.
Just the way you describe the combat, it's almost as if the designer had designed the entire game as a puzzle game, and then when he went to pitch it, like the prototype or whatever, to the higher ups, they said, "Oh, that looks really cool. When do you fight things? Why aren't you fighting things?" And he was like, "Really? You want me to put combat in this? That's not what I was wanting to do." So here's some rooms with some spawners that spawn a random number of monsters, and you have to slash them to kill them. There's your combat.
Yeah, I don't think the idea of putting these combat sequences is a bad one. It's framed well because you have these weird little shadow demons that emerge from these pools of black ick, and they grab Yorda and they drag her down into the shadow, and she's no, and you have to basically grab her hand and yank her out of the portal and then continue whacking demons with a 2x4 until they go away. Which is, again, that sounds funny. It is funny, except it's just really dull because at least in the portion of the game I played, you don't get any new moves. You don't get any new weapons. You don't improve. There's no variety. There's one attack. It's swing the 2x4. Yorda can't pick up a 2x4. There's one room that has a bunch of 2x4s on the wall, and you can pick one of them up. There's doesn't seem to be any reason to. I'm like, oh, great. Did I get a new weapon? No. Same thing, same power. Can Yorda use one? No. Can I dual wield 2x4s? No. I, I'm I plan to try and press through the game a little bit more, because again, I like the rest of the game. I like exploring. I like the puzzle aspect of. I like the way the castle that you're trying to get out of is less a series of rooms and more. There's a continuity to it that you get out of a room and you go upstairs and across a bridge and you look down and you see, oh, there's the area I was just in. So it really has a very good sense of place, rather than just a random jumble of here's a room, here's a room, like Binding of Isaac. It's just rooms connected to each other. There's no cohesive sense of a whole. But man, the combat just drags it down. What's interesting is I pulled up a lot of old reviews back in 2001, 2002 when this came out to see what people said. And while some mentioned that the game was a little slow and that so was the combat, no one really picked up on the fact that the combat is really dull and boring. Matthew said that the game doesn't hold up well. Impossible to say, of course, but I'm pretty sure I would have had the same problem with this game back in 2001 because the combat's just not fun, and it's not of the time either. It's not fun for the time. We had a lot more complicated and interesting combat mechanics in 3D platformers back then. Mm-hmm. It also runs into problems with it's a fixed angle game. The camera is locked in a location. It's kind of like Resident Evil, the early Resident Evil games, where the camera's in fixed locations, which is normally fine, except when the shadow demons grab Yorda and then fly off the screen, and you have no idea where they're going with her. And by the time, and you can't swing the camera around to see where they took her because she's on the other side of where the camera is. So all you can do is run over into that general area and hope you went to the right one, because if you didn't, she gets sucked into a portal and you get to do it all over again. By the way, no checkpoints in that game. You have to, when you see a save couch, sit your ass down and save. Otherwise, you're going to have to do that all again. Doesn't have any checkpoints. So
nice.
Ico, unfortunately, was a bust for me. I like... I can see what everyone saw in the game. If you can get around the combat, I highly recommend it because everything else is really quite wonderful. But man, that combat. Anyway, Zachary, take it. Talk about a game.
All right. Well, one of the games that I got this past December, and it's not a game that I got for Christmas. It's Microsoft released Lost Odyssey for free for Xbox One and Xbox 360 owners, and so I read the article that announced it, and I'm like, huh, okay, let's check this out because I don't have enough Xbox 360 games. I've got most of my 360 games are Lego games, the Lego. Various Lego games. I've got a handful of other games, and I still need to complete. Now I can't remember the name. Tales of Symphonia or some what?
It's a Tales game.
No, it's not Tales of Symphonia, but fun game, RPG that I was playing on the 360 that I haven't completed yet. Eternal Sonata is
Eternal Sonata.
Not I'm like Tales game. No, it's not a Tales game. But yeah, Eternal Sonata. I still need to beat that. But I got Lost Odyssey because everybody was like, "Oh, yay, Lost Odyssey," and I'm like, "Okay, well, it's a free game. I don't care." I anytime I see a service that I actually use is offering a free game, I'll go ahead and get it, even though I don't actually. Tales of Symphonia is that's the name that I was confusing it with, but Eternal Sonata is the one. But anytime there's a game a service that I actually use that offers a free game, I will get it. If it's a service I don't use, there's no way I'm going to create. It's like Origin offered some game for free this past week, and I was like, huh, should I do that? And I'm like, no, I don't use Origin, so I'm not going to do it. Okay, but enough about that. Enough with that ramble. So I downloaded it. It took me a good 10 hours to download, which was totally crazy because I thought I had a pretty decent internet connection. But it was, I think it was 4 DVDs worth of content that I downloaded. And then I finally got around to playing it, and I only managed to play a couple hours of it. And so far, I'm not totally impressed. uh, the game starts off with this cutscene of this giant battle between these guys that look like pull tabs off of soda cans from the 50s,
Hmm.
and then these other guys that kind of just look, I don't know what they look like, but they look like faceless uh, cylinder guys. I don't know. And so these guys are in full suits of armor. They're fighting each other, killing each other, and then they each bring in their machines of war, and it's a really cool battle sequence. Even though the character, the warriors and stuff actually don't look interesting at all, they just look really weird. Um, but the battle scene was pretty cool, and especially when they brought in these machines of war. And then eventually, after about 10 minutes of this, this shirtless guy shows up and starts slicing through all these faceless cylinder bad guys. And this is the hero of the story. I forget his name now, but he's the hero of the story. He runs around without a shirt on, and while everybody else is in full suit of armor. And and so you see him in the cutscene slicing through bad guys with no trouble at all, and then you finally get to play as him, and so you're in the middle of this army of bad guys, and then they all attack. Then they attack you one at a time, so that you could easily slay them. So just like any other, just like any movie, video game, whatever. It's like there's 200 bad guys, but only one of them's going to attack you at one time.
Well, let's be fair about this now.
Yeah.
There's only one of him.
Yeah. So I easily plow through these bad guys, and it's not too bad. I wasn't expecting much because it's the very beginning of the game. And then it gets to, I guess, what is the first official boss fight of the game, where after beating up all these bad guys, they bring in one of these machines of war to fight you. And what this is, it's hard to describe. Okay, there in the middle, there's this giant. I don't know what you would call it, but it's just this thing that falls and crushes stuff, and they crank it up, and then they release the winch, and it falls and crushes. And it's what they use to
It's
destroy. Yeah, it's what they use in the cutscene. They show them using it to destroy the other army's machines of war, and that makes sense. And so it's got this thing on there, and then on the sides there's these two flamethrower things, and this boss battle is just super boring. It was just so tedious. I think it took me 10 minutes just to beat this thing, and there was absolutely no variety to it. So you first thing you do is you attack one of the cannons, one of the flamethrowers, and then you get a message that says that that cannon's defenses have been raised while the other cannon's defenses have been dropped. and then it attacks you, and then you have to attack the other cannon, and then you go back and forth, and you have to hit these things like 10 times, and I don't know how many times I hit them, maybe 6 or 7 times. I don't remember, but there there was no, like, my character didn't have any special abilities for me to experiment with or anything. I just had to slash each of these and use healing items when my health got too low. And eventually I destroyed them both. And then you aim for the main motor for the thwompy thing. And so after this long and annoying boss fight, you see another cutscene, and then this cutscene was actually really cool because this fire starts appearing in the sky, and so you see this big giant ball of fire slowly falling from the sky, and then just as you think it's just going to fall on you, it instead opens up and pours lava all over the battlefield. Really cool visual effect, and so it just destroys everybody on the battlefield from both armies. Yet you're like, and then that character you're playing happens to be the one guy left alive, and everybody's just like, "What? How did you survive?" And then as you go through the opening I played it for 3 hours, I think, and this opening sequence was like the only battle sequence in that first 2 or 3 hours of the game, and so I was kind of like, when are we going to be an RPG? And so, but as you go through this opening sequence, you learn about the lore and everything, and so it's a world where instead, like, if Earth, if we didn't discover the instead of discovering atomic fusion like we have nowadays for nuclear power and nuclear weapons and all of that, we discovered magic, and we're able to harness magic in such a way, in kind of the way we do nuclear power and beyond. That's kind of what the story is. And so you've got these different countries that are building up magical weapons of mass destruction, and your character is apparently somebody that was cursed with immortality, and that's why he didn't die when that giant ball of lava fell on the battlefield.
It's a curse, but it has its perks.
Yeah. Well, and it goes through and kind of discusses the nature of the curse, that the fact that you have lived so long, you start to forget things. You don't.
How old am I?
I don't know. But yeah, so part of the game is actually hitting or going through specific event nodes, or like you go and do something specific, and then you have a memory that comes up, and then you can read the story of the memory that you just remembered, and which was actually kind of cool. But that again was kind of boring too. It was I don't know if you could skip it or not. I didn't try because I was just like, oh, let's read this. But the memory lasted probably a good 10 minutes of just me I think it was reading to me. I haven't played it in like a week and a half, so I don't remember everything about specifics like that. But it's just 10 minutes of me reading the story about the main character and this little kid that was super sick and couldn't go anywhere, and so she lived off of she got, instead of going off and having fun herself, she just talked to the people at the inn and listened to their stories. And so it was a big long thing about that. But yeah, about 2.5 hours into the game, and I haven't reached any spot where I can actually fight anything. So I haven't quite experience too much of it. But that first, those first battle sequences really didn't do much to show to make me think the game was going to be any fun. But we'll have to see as I play more of it. But really, you gotta, games need to they need to show off that fun stuff right at the beginning. It would have been nice if they had just given me like maybe one ability or something aside from attack that I could use. Something that it's like, oh, you try to attack and it's like, oh, attacking's not very effective. Try this other ability and then use that, and it makes things go a lot easier. That would have been nice to have had at the beginning of the game instead of the slog that it ended up being. But yeah, but I'll have to try some more of that game eventually.
Okay, interesting. Well, before we get to my next game, Jordan asks an interesting question. Says, if we lost a hand, what games in our collection could we still enjoy one-handed? Well, I mean, the obvious answer is, sexy visual novels, but I have a I have a bunch of point-and-click adventure games that I could easily play. Not just the newer Telltale stuff, but some of the old Sierra stuff.
Yeah.
Even more modern things like the Broken Sword series. I love adventure games, so those are easy to play. I also have a bunch of Wii games, and a lot of those are just the remote without the nunchuck. So, Wii Sports, and I think there's a bunch of games that are just Wiimote only. So, yeah, it would suck if I lost a hand, but there's and some DS, 3DS games that are like Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton. Some of the slower, some of the like the 999 of Virtue's Last Rewards, real slower games that don't take a lot of twitchy, move a lot. So I have a lot of games that I could play one-handed. I still wouldn't want to lose a hand, though. What about you?
Well, point and click adventures, definitely. I still enjoy those. Um uh, anything that you can play with just a mouse is a big plus. So
Yeah.
real time strategy games, games like Civilization, so things like Warcraft, Warcraft 3, StarCraft. I tend to not use the shortcut commands, the keyboard commands
Mhm.
when I play, because I'm not a competitive player. I don't play against other people,
Yeah.
so I just play against the machine, and I do pretty well just using the mouse. Um,
Codenames he
so,
also points out RPGs, especially turn-based RPGs, would be good ones too. I mean,
yeah,
you'd
some
probably
of
have
them.
to, depending on whether you're playing PC or console. If you're playing console, you'd
Yeah,
probably have to keep switching your grip from movement to buttons, or just set the
yeah.
controller down and do that. But yeah,
Yeah,
RPGs would be workable
RPGs
too.
could work. Depends on which ones you're playing. So, like you
Xenoblade
wouldn't be able to
Chronicles would
play.
be it's stuff like action RPGs like that are not
Yeah,
turn based would be really really hard.
yeah,
You
but
could do it. I've seen a lot of people who only have the use of one hand rock games. I mean,
oh yeah,
there's a guy whose name I completely forget, who you see often at the Awesome Games Done Quick charity speedrunning thing, who speedruns one handed, and he's amazing. So
yeah, and I'm sure you could get if you're handy with soldering iron or know somebody who is. I'm sure you could take something like your PlayStation 3 controller or Wii remote or something with the nunchuck and combine it into
mhm.
uh,
Yeah,
a
there are
single-handed
organizations that
controller. So
actually work on the
yeah,
devices like that too. So, still don't want to lose. I'm glad I still have all my hands and digits. So,
yeah. And then
uh,
mobile phone games. I love
oh,
playing
Super Mario
games on
Run,
my
sure.
yeah.
Can't
I
play it
like
on a
playing games
plane,
on
but
my
you can
mobile
play it with
phone,
one
and
hand.
there's tons. Most of the ones that I play are one-handed games, anyways,
Hmm.
because that to me that is the the optimal design for a mobile phone game is to be able to play it one-handed. Some games can work two-handed, but if you can make it so that you can play it with just one hand, it's excellent.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So the next game I've been playing is one of my Christmas presents, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. Um,
I love those titles.
yeah, it's a great title. I'm glad they kept Sharp FE for no good reason. I think it's supposed to be Fire Emblem is what that's supposed to stand for, but
Yeah.
13U Cube, Andrew, have you spent any of your Nintendo coins? No, because there's nothing good to spend them on. And the My Nintendo thing, I'm hoping maybe this when Switch comes out, they'll have something worth spending it on. But I've got like nearly 5,000 coins in that damn thing and nothing to spend them on. It's like, hey, you could get a 30% discount for a game you already own. It's like if I don't already own Mario Kart 8, I probably don't want it, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but whatever. Anyway, so Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, probably the game most well known for Nintendo's bafflingly nonsensical localization decisions, which we've talked about at length in the podcast, and I did cut that that segment out and made it its own video. You can find it on my YouTube channel. I think it's called Nintendo's localization decisions are baffling or something similar to that.
Yeah.
But so how's the game? It's really fun. It's super cute. It's super charming. It's just a lot of fun. It's a really good dungeon crawler. The dungeon crawling elements are really good. The combat is really fun. Where it falls a little flat for me is in the stuff in between the dungeon crawly bits. All of the personality, the character interactions is on point. It's the actual mechanics of the various side quests that you get into between missions that I
Yeah.
don't feel are as strong as they could be. Usually, because they keep sending you to. Well, here's one thing. One of the guys is like, "Hey, I need to get some motivation, so let's go kill these 5 of these specific monsters." Okay, that's a typical RPG side quest. Go kill 5 things, right? We see that all the time. Here's the thing though. He's like, let's go kill 5 slimes. What slimes? You mean like the weakest enemy in the entire game? Yes. Let's return to the dungeon from the prologue and beat up 5 slimes. I'm like, we're we're level 28. Why do you want to go back to the first dungeon and beat up slimes? They're actually blobs, but you get my point.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff. Almost all of the side quests so far, and I'm 20 some hours into the game, keep returning to the dungeon from the prologue. It keeps sending me back to the easiest dungeon where I'm over leveling everything by 25 levels. It's the weirdest. So it's like, hey, let's go beat up 5 slimes. Okay, so you do, and you go back and you get your goodie. It's like, hey, my boss is hungover and we need to make a hangover medicine, but the 3 ingredients are littered on the floor of a dungeon. The first dungeon. Let's go back to the first dungeon and wander. It's like, what? Why? So it falls a little flat in some cases. Now that's not all of them, but there's enough of them to make me go, eh? But what I really want to talk about with this game is the fact that I am actually playing the uncensored version, if you will, or the director's cut. I am playing the game as it was originally intended to be presented, vagina bones and all. So, for the quick recap, some of the localizations decisions that Nintendo made for this game is they aged up all the characters 1 year. So most of the characters were 17. They're now 18. In case you were wondering, it's a T-rated game. There's no sex in the game. There's no drug use, no alcohol. Some of the bikinis have been replaced with other clothing. Some of them have not. Some of the cleavage has been covered up with a different shirt. Some have not. Sometimes it's the same character. So we've talked about this before, but the the changes are completely inconsistent to the point of being absolutely baffling. So, wonderful people like you can see Icy Sun 55 in the chat. There is one of the people who worked on some of the various utilities used to patch the Western version of the game to patch the removed content back into the game. So I did that, and it was a learning experience. It actually took me nearly a full day to figure out how to do that. And just to be clear, I want to point this out. Give me my disc, Wii U. Give me that. I didn't steal anything. This is. I'm holding it upside down. This is actually the game. I own it. I didn't download a copy of the game. So no piracy going on here. All this does is what you do is you use a program to dump all of the data off of this disk onto your computer, which took about 5 hours. Hang on. Off with you, Wii U. Be quiet. All right. So once you have all the data on your computer, then someone wrote a utility that basically takes all of the original costumes and some rewritten lines of dialogue and a couple text things and just patches the game. You put it on an SD card, and then you need another 2 different utilities to actually run games off the SD card. And again, I want to be very clear that the game that I am running off of this SD card is literally this thing, that this legally purchased copy that I own. I just want to be, in case Nintendo's watching, I want you to know that what I am playing on here is literally this thing. So, one of the hurdles I ran into when trying to figure out how to patch this sucker was I couldn't write to my SD card, and I actually had to Google foo this one because it said your thing is write protected, and you can see the little yellow switch thing.
Yeah.
No, it's not. But what I found out is there's a little notch in the side that if your computer sees that the notch there, it thinks it's write protected. So this little orange bit is electrical tape that I just covered the notch so that I could actually write to the damn thing.
Nice.
So it's finagly because the Wii U is not really meant to be running games off of the SD card. In fact, the way it works is there's a couple ways to do it, but one of the ways it works is you kind of trick the Wii U into thinking it's actually running Mii Maker. Apparently, there's some exploit in Mii Maker. There's also one in Smash Brothers and a couple other games, but anyway, it took me a solid day to figure out how to dump the game, get the files to my computer, patch it, put it on an SD card, and run it. But and going to the site where you can launch the homebrew launcher to actually run your game off the SD card can sometimes just not work, and you have to unplug your Wii U and start again. But once it gets going, it's great, and I've really been enjoying the game. Now, is it worth it? If you're really good with this, you can probably do it in half a day. If you're brand new to it, it's going to take you a full day like me. Is it worth the effort? That really depends on you. Me, I'm that kind of purist guy. I need to see everything in its original language. I need to see things in its original aspect ratio. I don't like translating the language into one I can understand. I'm totally good with that change, but changing costuming or things like that, I don't agree with. I also get annoyed when they change, like I don't know, a rice ball to pizza. Yeah, kind of the changes that like 4Kids animation, which no one in America will ever understand what rice is. We need to change it to pizza. It's like, we know it's Japan. It's okay.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, none of the changes that Nintendo made really affect the gameplay or the story. If you don't want to take the day it's going to take to figure out how to patch the game, you can still enjoy the game. It's a really fun game. I recommend it. The dungeon crawling and combat is totally worth it to me. The setup that they do with your characters are constantly, it treats the Wii U gamepad like a smartphone. You're constantly getting text messages and crap on your Wii U from characters chatting at you about in-game events. It's really cool. And the characters all use happy little emojis, custom emojis that are like chibi versions of them going, yay! I'm like, oh my God, it's so adorable. But
Yeah.
really, I just would again like to say publicly that to all of the heroes, and yes, you are heroes, who worked to create the various applications that allow gamers to uh, play localized versions of games as they were originally intended to be presented. Thank you. I know that is a ton of work. I work in, I'm QA, but I do work in technology myself. I know how much time and effort goes into that kind of stuff. And I know how much QA goes into that kind of stuff because I do that.
Yeah.
So your efforts are wholly appreciated. Thank you. You shouldn't have to do that. Nintendo should provide this patch, right? I don't have a problem with it's kind of like the
Nintendo should
Star.
just not change the
Well,
content to begin
yeah,
with.
I agree that it shouldn't change it, but ostensibly they're making changes so that the game will appeal to a broader audience. I think they completely fail in that attempt if that's what they're trying to do, but that's a fine thing. I don't have a
Mhm.
problem with that. It's like the Star Wars Special Edition. I don't have a problem with the Special Edition. I have a problem with the fact that I can't buy the original in a
Mhm.
decent presented format. And it's the same thing here. I wouldn't have a problem with the weird changes that Nintendo decided to make as long as it provided, if this patch was just available to download from the eShop, however they wanted to bill it as a original Japanese version or uncensored version or director's cut version, or anyone who wants to see the game as it was originally presented in Japan,
Yeah.
we can free patch. I think everyone would be, and now some people would grumble, well, I shouldn't have to do that. Yeah, fine, but I would be happy to just go to the eShop, download the patch, continue on my day. Instead, I spent an entire day figuring this damn thing out. But again, to IC who's in the chat, and to everyone else who worked on the GBA temp forums, I think, thank you all, because playing things in as close to their original presentation as possible is something that I value very highly, and I am extraordinarily grateful that I get the opportunity to do that with this game, which I really am having a ton of fun with. So again, thank you everyone. Your efforts are very much appreciated.
Nice.
So let me see what the chat is saying. Oh, and I looked around seeing if anyone had done a patch for the Wii U Fatal Frame game, but I didn't see it. That does seem like quite a lot of work to patch in 2 costumes, which
Yeah.
is actually kind of a bummer too, because um, the replacement costumes are actually really cool. Uh, it's this kind of situation where it's like, Nintendo, just add the costumes, don't replace them. Just more costumes, more is better. But if you could toggle between original Japanese presentation and localized version or something,
Yeah.
it's totally possible. It's just a damn patch. I mean, the idea of this thing is actually really simple. I mean, the idea of just patching a couple of the video files and a couple of the dialogue files, it's just replacing, it's just a few file replacements. It's really not that hard. Nintendo could do this and could host the damn patch right where it hosts the game for digital download and its couple DLCs, one of which they don't make available, I guess, because it's got bikinis in it again. That's the Hot Springs. There's a Hot Springs DLC that this did not come over to the West
Yeah.
because I guess some people would be really offended by the option to pay for an extra piece of content that they don't have. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. But anyway, it's a fun game, whether you play it patched or not. So that's my rant. Zachary, what else you been playing?
All right. For Christmas, I actually did get a game, and it's Final Fantasy IV, the complete collection. This has the interlude and the after years games in it. And whoa, my color went really weird. Okay. Um, but so it, I got this for the PSP, and I've never played the After Years stuff, and I've always wanted to, even though every review I've read says that it's just a bunch of just rehashed content from the base game, and it's not worth the time and effort. But I like Final Fantasy IV. It's not my top favorite from the Super Nintendo era. I definitely like Final Fantasy VI and 5 better than 4, but it's still one of the in the top half of the Final Fantasy games that I really like. And so I've been playing through the base game, and I'm all the way to the final dungeon now. Because from what I understand, beating the base game uh, allows you to bring data over or something into the after years stuff, so you can bring levels and items with you or something like that. There's something like that in this game. And so and since Final Fantasy IV is always fun to play anyways, I figured, I'll give it a shot. And the first thing that I noticed is that visually they updated all of the graphics. But this isn't like Final Fantasy 5 and 6 iOS ports that Square Enix did. With those ones, I don't know who they got to make all the sprites and tile sheets for those, but apparently the person they hired to do it was blind, and so those games just look really really ugly. But Final Fantasy 4 actually looks really good. I have not seen anything wrong with any of the sprites or any of the tile sheets for the backgrounds. So everything looks really nice, really clean, and um, they everything looks well together. I know with the Final Fantasy 5 and 6 mobile ports, the sprites and the battle scenes, the sprites just they don't look right. They look like they're just kind of they look like they're a sticker on top of a picture on the background. And but with this one, the sprites all look great everywhere they are. So I've really enjoyed the visuals. I think the upgraded graphics are great and very well designed. Gameplay wise, the first thing that I noticed is that a bug that I've always enjoyed in the Super Nintendo version of the game is no longer there. It's the item duplication bug. Um, with that, when you go into battle, you can select an empty spot in your item list and then select your weapon, and it moves your weapon down, and then you can either finish the battle or run away. And then you could go back, and then you go into the equip menu and then re-equip that weapon, and the weapon was now duplicated, so you had two of them in your hand, and then you just unequip them and equip one back. And you could do this in order to get a lot of money, and you can do this to duplicate one of the strongest weapons in the game. For Edge, he's a little ninja towards the end of the game, and he throws items, and the Excalibur sword that you get in the game is one of the best throwing items that you can find. And if you can duplicate it, then he can throw and do 9,999 damage over and over again. Unfortunately, you can't duplicate items in this game, so I've been struggling for money and struggling for things to throw. So been really sad, really missing that bug. Um,
My favorite, just to chime in, my favorite
oh,
item duplication bug that I've ever seen, I think, is in one of the Elder Scrolls game. I think it's either 4 or 5. But the funny thing about that is the weird physics, because once
Yeah,
you do the item glitch, you just get a ton of that crap. It just like drops right in front of you. So you make goblets or cheese or whatever. It's the ground is littered with them. It's
nice.
visually, it's just funny rather than in like
Yeah,
the item duplication glitches you have in Zelda. It's just a menu thing.
yeah.
Skyrim makes it really visual and makes it, which is really funny to watch. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's cool. Another game, Final Fantasy Tactics also has a duplication bug in it, but it only works with certain weapons. So like special swords, like the Excalibur or other swords that you're not really supposed to sell or anything. Those swords can be duplicated as well. If you have a character that can use two weapons, and you set the sword you want to copy in your left hand, and then you go to the then you go to a shop and do an auto equip where it equips the best stuff in the shop onto your character, and then it moves it moves Excalibur into your right hand, and you can buy it for 10 gil, but you're buying a duplicate. You're not so it duplicates it that way. So always good. So you can get your main characters the best swords in the game. But back to Final Fantasy IV. One of the things that they added in this particular version that's not available in the Super Nintendo one is that in the Super Nintendo one, you go through the story and you get party members, and then they leave, and then you never get them again. So certain characters are only available for certain parts of the game. But with this one, you can actually, once the final dungeon is made available, you can actually get all but one of those characters back into your party. So you can change them all out. The one that you don't get back is one that actually dies for real in the game. But everybody else, you can change your party members out and play with these other ones. Um, for the main game, there's no reason to. The characters aren't all that all that useful when you go up to the final dungeon, but they designed in a way to make them a little more useful, in that you can actually get really good weapons for them and good equipment for them through a new optional dungeon, and so that's cool. So I've already played through that, got all of their new weapons and armor and everything. So really cool. I'm looking forward to playing through the after years and stuff, but it'll probably be I'll probably be able to play at least one or two of those by next week, hopefully. It depends on how long the final dungeon, and then there's this. And then there's these new trial dungeons that open up after you beat the game. So that's going to be interesting. We'll see how long that takes me to beat.
Hmm.
But yeah, this on its own was worth it just for the remake of Final Fantasy IV. So I think it was only $20 on Amazon. I'd have to double check. My wife bought it for me for Christmas, but yeah, it was just for the remake of Final Fantasy IV. It was totally worth it, even if I don't enjoy the after year stuff. But yeah, so good game. I still like the Super Nintendo one for what it is. Because yeah, just being able to play those other characters at the end of the game is just probably not that worth it, because some of them suck. So
Hmm.
the Spoony Bard in particular.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That is the game that Spoony Bard comes from, isn't it?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so my next game is once again another Christmas present. Super Mario 3D Land for the 3DS. Um, Now, my feelings have evolved on this title. First of all, I want to say that the 3D in this game is actually really well done. There are a lot of moments where the 3D actually adds to the atmosphere. Like you'll jump over a pit and the camera will just kind of go right overhead, giving you a real vertigo shot. Um, there are a lot of bullet bills and spikes that shoot out of the background towards you, which is a
Mhm.
lot of fun. But it also does help a bit with your depth perception and figuring out exactly where the platform is, where you are in relation to the platform you're trying to jump onto. So I played this on the airplane because I couldn't play Super Mario Run. Played this on the airplane on the way home, and there's 8 worlds, like maybe 6 levels per world or something, and I managed to get all the way through World 5, all the way to World 6, getting the 3 special star coins in almost every single level on the plane ride home. This game is really, really easy. I'm talking Super Mario Galaxy 2 levels of easy, which I find. Now, I don't need this to be Dark Souls hard or anything. But the uh, the game is just so easy that I mean, it's still fun. I wasn't expecting a challenge, so I wasn't really disappointed. But you know, get just kind of walking through each level, collecting all the hidden star coins along the way is just a little disappointing. And so I got home and I played it off and on a little bit, and I beat World 8, and it actually opens up Special World, which is 8 more worlds worth of levels. And these are much more challenging. Again, not Dark Souls hard or anything, but the game basically just doubled in length. So instead of beating the entire thing in like literally 5 hours, you might actually take 10 to beat this game. Um, so I'm actually my opinion. I'm like, there is more content in this game. That's nice. It's just a shame that you have to go through 8 worlds before you get to anything that you actually have to pay attention to,
Yeah.
so you don't die.
Y-
Still not hard. Although I've only gone through the first 2 special worlds, but it's at least interesting
Yeah.
from a
You,
challenge
you,
point,
you keep bringing up Dark Souls, and this just reminds me of a comic that I
which
saw.
I've never played. So
Yeah, well, I saw this comic just the other day on Facebook. Somebody had linked it there, and it's the first panel is a character that looks like Link from Legend of Zelda, and he's got the Master Sword and a shield, and he's like, "Oh yay, let's go on an adventure!" And he's like, "There's a skeleton, let's attack it!" And so it goes to attack the skeleton, and then the next panel is the skeleton turns around and shoves its sword through Link's gut. And then the final panel is the skeleton whispering its ear, "Welcome to Dark Souls."
there's another one that's actually pretty funny. It shows this like 3 or 4 year old child looking longingly up at a kitchen counter where there's a sandwich or something like that, and there's this 7 foot armored dude uh, standing next to the counter. He says, "You want something to eat, do you?" And the kid's like, and the 7 foot armored guy puts on the giant horned helmet and picks up his 8 foot broadsword and says, "Come get it." And it says Dark Souls. I'm not doing that comic justice at all, but it is pretty
Uh,
funny. So anyway, Mario 3D World. The initial batch of levels in the 8 worlds are really easy, but it's still really creatively designed and fun to play. I still don't like the way they do the physics in the modern day Mario 3D Mario games. I prefer the way it worked in Mario 64 and Sunshine. When they moved to Galaxy, they made it so that Mario really needs momentum.
mhm.
He really has to work for his forward momentum, which I guess maybe I'm just old. That annoys me. I mean,
So
it's
like
not
he doesn't start at top speed. He has to build up to it. Is
right.
that what
In
you're talking about?
64 and Sunshine, Mario pretty much goes from stop to full speed in a few frames. You can pretty much get a hell of a lot of distance with a standing long jump. Um, jumping, doing triple jumps and stuff is real easy. You're just boom, you're off. Once they got to Galaxy, they changed it to where Mario kind of needs a running start to get any distance, which to me, especially since I guess I'm an older Mario player, makes him feel kind of sluggish, like he's really heavy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the platforming is built around that. Like you're supposed to jump to the top of the flagpole, and what they want you to do is, do the consecutive platform hops to build up the momentum so that you can reach there. And it's designed specifically for that control system, so it's not bad controls or anything. Don't misunderstand. I just prefer the way Mario controls in 64 and Sunshine to the way he prefers in Galaxy and 3D Land, 3D World. Just a personal preference. But once you get through World 8, which will really only take you about 4 or 5 hours. The special worlds are a lot more fun because they also show the same amount of imagination and creative design, but they're actually challenging enough to the point where you do have to pay attention to what you're doing. Maybe not super duper hard, at least in the first
Mm-hmm.
two worlds, but the special world for me, the special worlds in this game is where it's where the game really starts. But the traditional worlds are still fun and a
Yeah.
joy to walk through. Skipping hand in hand with bunnies and unicorns and rainbows and stuff. So anyway, that's 3D
Nice.
Mario Land. So anything else on your list?
Yeah, I got one more game that I've been playing, and
All right.
and this one is one that I've had for a while that I bought PlayStation 1 Classics uh, way back last year. Is Grandia. I've been playing it for a few weeks now. I've clocked in about 20 hours playtime with it, and and this past week has been, or past week or two has been mostly uh, playing this, but I still play Grandia from time to time, and I'm not even halfway through it. I'm still on disc one of this game. There's two discs on it, and it's a PlayStation 1 title, but it's a really I don't have anything bad to say about this game because it is an excellent RPG. It is probably one of the best RPGs I've played lately, and it really holds up well. A while back, I played Wild Arms and had some issues with that game because they have these really nice 2D sprites
Is that
and
the remake that or the HD update thing that they just did like a month or
no,
so ago? No, it's not the reloaded, remastered,
no. This
whatever.
is the PlayStation 1 classic for Wild
Oh,
Arms,
okay.
and
Still a great game.
yeah, it is a fun game, and
I was
I
thinking of the
liked
right
it.
game. I
But
better check.
Wild Arms is a yeah. I don't know if they've done a
I think
remake of that one, but
I'm thinking of the wrong game. What game? What game am I thinking of? Go ahead. Wild Arms
but
is still a good game.
yeah, and it is. But with Wild Arms, the world and levels, like the dungeons and stuff, look really nice. 2D land or 2D sprites and tiles and everything looks great. But then when you go into the battles, there's these really blocky 3D polygons that are supposed to be characters and monsters, and it just looks really terrible when you get into the battle system and into the battles. And so to me,
I'm
that
thinking
game
of
doesn't.
Wild Guns.
Wild Guns, yeah, that's a
Okay.
different game.
Yes, it is.
But
But
that
that's the
game
one I was
doesn't
thinking.
hold up.
Also a good game.
Yeah, but with Grandia, everything is done 2D. It's a 2D isometric style view. It's very similar to the way that, Breath of Fire 3 and 4 were done. Very nice looking sprites, very nice looking graphics and animations, and to me, it really holds up well as a game that you could play 10 years from now and still enjoy it visually. Gameplay wise, it hits all the right notes for a JRPG. You've got your leveling mechanic, you got your multiple characters that have their own abilities, and then it has its own little gimmicks. For instance, each character can use certain weapons, and you level up your proficiency with the weapons by using them, and the more you build your proficiency, the more skills open up for that weapon, and then you can have skills that open up if you have leveled up more than one weapon to a certain point, and then finally the spell system. All the characters have access to magic, and they all pull from basically the same list of magic, but some of them have access to certain spells while other ones don't. But it works the same way as your weapon proficiency, in that if you want to get more fire magic or fire spells, you have to use your fire magic and level it up. And this is something that like for Legend of Mana or Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo, you used your magic and you leveled it up, and the more you used fire, it goes from fire 1 to fire 2 to fire 3 or whatever they called the spells. So that's how that worked. With this one, so you use your fire magic and you get a new fire spell after a certain number of levels, and then if you have like fire and wind, you have access to lightning magic. Fire and earth is explosion magic. Water and wind is ice magic, and then water and earth is they call it trees, but it's like curative magic. Yeah. But yeah, some very great gameplay. The story is pretty good. The main character is kind of annoying in that he's this gung ho, I'm an adventurer, I'm going to go on an adventure type character, and it drives me nuts a little bit. But he's your typical spiky haired protagonist, but he hides his spiky hairedness pretty well underneath his hat. So, but yeah, there really is no looming threat so far in the game. Like most RPGs, you tend to get the end of the world is coming, and there's this bad guy you have to stop in order to prevent the end of the world. With this game, there isn't so much of that. There's some antagonists in the game, and you butt heads with them from time to time. But the main drive of the game is your character inherited a spirit stone from his father, and while off exploring some ruins, you stumbled across this hidden room that was unlocked using your spirit stone, and you talked to this personage in there who told you that you need to go off on this adventure and find these other ruins or find this town, city, or whatever it is. And so you go off and do this. So I kind of like the idea of a game that doesn't have some looming threat over your head, because it makes it more fun to play rather than just your typical end of the world type story. But I'm sure eventually I'll hit something that's going to say, "Oh, the world's going to get destroyed if you don't help us do this." Right now, the dungeon that I'm playing is in order to help save this village from being destroyed from some poisonous rain or something. But yeah, so. But yeah, it's a great game. If anybody hasn't played it yet, I definitely recommend it, even though I haven't finished it yet. And I was looking, and I was hoping to see, because I was wanting to finish this up, and then I'm like, you know what, I kind of want to get Grandia too. And I looked on the PlayStation store, and they don't have Grandia 2. They have Grandia 3 on there, but not Grandia 2. And that makes me sad. I'm like, why do you not have the second one?
Yeah.
That kind of sucks, you know. I'm not gonna buy 3 unless I can buy 2.
Yeah, I'm like, it's interesting with movies. A lot of times it's a good idea to start with the first movie. In games, sometimes it's not. Like
Well, yeah,
sometimes the first game is so old that it's like really hard to play these days.
yeah. Like I would not recommend playing Final Fantasy 1 or even 2 these days.
Hmm.
They're neither one of those are worth playing. 3 probably not so much, but 4, 5, and 6, yeah, I would recommend those
Oh yeah,
3. But but yeah, but Dragon Warrior, I don't know. The first Dragon Warrior to me is
first Dragon
just.
Warrior I'd still recommend.
I still recommend it too, even though having to select stairs from a menu is
Oh
really
my, oh
annoying.
yeah,
But
I
yeah.
totally forgot about. I think they get rid of that by Dragon Warrior 2, but
Yeah, they
um,
get rid of stairs, and but yeah,
for
I
those who
still.
don't know, in that game, you hit the A button or whatever to bring up a menu which has a bunch of actions in it. One's for items, one's for equipment, one's for talk to people,
One's
and
for
one is actually for
open and one
stairs.
for stairs.
Okay,
Yeah,
you walk over to the stairs tile on the map, stand on it, go into the menu, and select stairs. In future games, you just walk up to people and hit A, or you just walk onto the stairs.
yeah.
Now, up you go, or down you go. Um, so anyway, um, all right. I guess my last game. I have played more. We could talk about Resident Evil 5, but the last game I'd like to talk about is a game that actually was another Christmas present. This one actually sent to me by one of my viewers. So
Oh, nice.
it pays to be an internet nobody because sometimes people send you goodies. So one of my viewers sent me a Steam copy of Shantae Half-Genie Hero and the soundtrack. Now,
Nice.
I was very appreciative because it's always cool to get free stuff. I'm also just kind of amazed that there are people out there that enjoy my work
Yeah.
enough to want to buy me things, which is kind
Well,
of
yeah, it's like
incredible.
a while back, somebody, I had, when the Humble Bundle was doing their Capcom bundle for the
Hmm.
PlayStation 3, I just casually mentioned it on Facebook. It's like, man, somebody want to buy this for me? And somebody did. I was like,
Oh, nice,
sweet.
nice.
Yeah.
Um, so he got me the Steam code for Half Genie Hero and um, the soundtrack. Now, back in I think 2013, I got Xenoblade Chronicles, which came with the Wii Pro controller, Wii Classic Controller Pro,
Mhm.
which is your very basic dual joystick, 4 buttons, plus pad, 4 buttons up on the shoulders. It's just a regular good old controller.
Mhm.
I also
Very
said,
comfortable. I
yeah,
love mine. Yeah.
yeah. I also bought a USB adapter for the PC, which allows me to plug that sucker into the PC and hope I can use it to play PC games. And my track record is very spotty with this.
Yeah.
Some games, for example, Super Meat Boy, works perfectly. Just plug this sucker in, and you can play Super Meat Boy on a controller, which is good because I don't know anyone who plays Super Meat Boy with a keyboard. That's really, really terrible to play.
Yeah, I've actually with Super Meat Boy, I actually played it with my keyboard for a while. I got through um
I
I'm
got through
trying to
the
think.
first level.
No, I actually got through quite a few levels. It's been
Good.
a long time since I played it, but yeah, but those later levels, if you're not using a
Oh man,
controller, there's just no
yeah.
way to beat it.
I'm sure there are
Yeah.
people who can do it, but I don't think. Even the game itself tells you flat out, says you do not want to play this with the keyboard. Use a controller. Now,
Yeah.
some games do not plug and play with this controller. So,
Yeah.
what I have to do is use a bit of software like Joy 2 Key, which is a piece of software that interprets the controller inputs and tells the computer he just hit this key on the keyboard. So you can map
Mm-hmm.
the A button to the space bar on the so when you hit the A button, the
Yeah.
computer is told he just hit the space bar. Um, and it's a pain in the ass to bind all of the keys to oh hey, let me get a quick visual aid. Hang on. Okay. So, this is how much of a pain in the ass this is. All right. So, right over here, these are all of the how this sucker works is the May Flash Wii Classic controller adapter for PC actually labels all of its buttons with numbers, and that's how Joy2Key and
Well,
other
those are yeah,
programs
those are the
usually refer to them.
those are
Doesn't
the
refer
button
to it.
IDs,
Yeah,
and that's how
they're all numbered. It's not referred to as the X button. It's referred to as the one button, even though there
exactly.
is a
Well,
one
and
button.
that's how video
Or
games
actually, there isn't.
interpret those. They
Yeah,
they get the input, and it says that the one button was pressed. It doesn't
right.
say the A button was
Yeah,
pressed. It says the one button was
exactly,
pressed.
exactly.
And yeah, so
So I wrote down what the actual number of the buttons were and what the actual button on the controller is. So you have X, A, B, Y, Z, L, Z, R, stuff like that. Then I went into the game and looked up the controls. And so you have on the key, when you hit the D button on the keyboard, she does her dance. If you hit the return button, it's interact, X is jump, Z is what. So then I had to use this to map all the various moves to the proper keys so that I could play it with my controller. Didn't work. Did not work. I spent over an hour fussing with this thing to try and play a video game that one of my viewers so kindly and generously sent me, and I couldn't do it.
so okay.
Go ahead.
Before you go on, I've had some problems with controller support on games in Steam as well, and I do the same. I have the same setup as you. I've got a Wii Classic Controller Pro with the Mayflash adapter,
Mm-hmm.
and with Linux, it's just plug and play. I plug it in and it recognizes it. I do have a utility that allows me to map the buttons to keyboard keys for those games that don't have controller support for or don't support my particular controller.
Yeah.
Um, and so things like Cave Story plays a lot better when I use that utility rather than the keyboard. For some reason, I don't know why that game doesn't have controller support, but it drives me nuts.
Shantae actually does.
Yeah,
But when I map it correctly, the only button that works is the A button. So I can select start, but I can start the game.
Now,
But that's about it.
But this is something else that I was getting into, is that with Steam, I found out that Steam can override or can set a default controller for you if you go into big picture mode. So like so the big picture mode, you go into there, and that, I don't know why you can't do it outside of big picture mode, or maybe I just couldn't find it outside of big picture mode. But you go into big picture mode, and there is a setting menu in there where you can go into the controller layout and actually reassign all the controller buttons. Because the reason I found this was because Shank, a really fun game. If you guys haven't played Shank yet, I definitely recommend it.
That is a good game. Yeah.
Yeah, but Shank I
Great
could
anime.
play when if I just download it from the Humble Bundle the Humble Bundle website and just and install it from there, I can play it just fine. I have to go into the controller settings and make sure all the buttons are assigned properly, but I can play it just fine. But through Steam, it wasn't recognizing my controller. It wouldn't let me use it. But going into big picture mode and then creating that default controller layout actually fixed all those problems. And I was able to use my controller just fine with Shank. But
Yeah,
maybe that will help you. I don't know.
there is a happy ending to this story, but I'm long-winded, so we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So some games like Super Meat Boy just work right out of the box. Some games like off the top of my head, Postal 2, I can play as long as I map the keys with Joy 2 key. Some games like Shantae Half-Genie Hero, man, no matter what I do, I cannot get that sucker to work. And again, I'm a QA analyst, so I know how to test things. Everything was working the way it was supposed to. Half-Genie Hero will just not work with this controller, except for the yes button, the select yes out of the menu. So I can start the game, but which translates to in-game the interact button. So I'd have to play with the keyboard, and the only button I could do was like talk to people.
Yeah.
So of course I groused about this on Twitter, and I believe it was Matthew, who may or may not still be in the chat, said, well, do you have a 360 controller? Because as you probably know, the 360 controller is almost unilaterally supported. As long as a game supports controllers, the 360 controller will work. And probably the Xbox One also. And I was aware of this, but I don't have a 360 controller because I've never owned any of Microsoft consoles. So
$15 for a rock candy at Walmart.
Nice, but well, I mean, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, it's a $15 third-party controller.
Oh, a third-party controller,
Candy.
which I don't trust third-party controllers. But 360
they're pretty crap.
Even to this day, are $30, and call me cheap or whatever, but I have a real problem spending $30 on a controller in order to play a game that costs $20. You know, especially a game I got for free. So I'm like, I don't want to pay $30 for a controller just to play. And I don't play enough PC games. And this is kind of why I don't play this crap. This crap right here is why I don't play PC games. So Matthew said, well, they just added PS4 support. Do you happen to have a PS4 controller? And I'm like, well, no, I have a PS3 because my sister bought me a PS3 2 years ago for Christmas 2 years ago. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. I actually do have a PS4 controller. Why the hell do I have a PS4 controller, you ask? Well, my original PS3 controller died after my PS3 warranty expired. The stick got real. It started sending a left signal in neutral position. So a friend of mine who works at Sony said, I can get you another PS3 controller, and gave me a PS4 controller that I could play with while he was looking for a PS3 controller. So I now have a brand new
PS4 controllers work on the PS3?
Yes, you can actually play PS3 games with the PS4 controller.
That's cool.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, it works fine. And oh man, the triggers on this sucker are so much better than the ones on this. These suck. These are actually much better. So I actually do have a PS4 controller, and I was able to play Shantae, and I've dumped about almost 2 hours in the game. I haven't played much of it, but it is such a great game. It is a lot of fun. If you've played any of the Shantae games, Half-Genie Hero, I haven't played much of it, but I already recommend it. It is so damn cute. Shantae, she didn't do this in the last game, Pirate's Curse, but in this game she's back to using her hip wiggly dancy moves to turn into various animals, like a monkey and a crab and a mermaid. And everything is so adorable in this game. It's like you squee while playing the game because everything's so cute. So, and it's also just genuinely a fun platformer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I should probably mention, speaking of PS4, that while I don't have a PS4, I did buy a PS4 game about a month ago. Because as you're all probably really sick of hearing, I really like the Yakuza games, and the next Yakuza game is, in America at least, exclusive to the PS4. So I bought it, and it doesn't come out until January 20th. But I knew I was going to have it at some point anyway, which also means that I have to buy a PS4 at some point. Um,
Yeah, because you're not gonna be able to play it.
which I did.
Oh,
I
sweet.
so I bought this actually about a week ago. Um, because I figured it's at a 250 price point, and it's probably going to go back up to its MSRP of 300 after the holiday.
Yeah,
And I've got a game coming on the 20th, so I'm going to need a PS4 anyway. So this particular one comes from GameStop, where I got so it was 250 for the console plus a $25 gift card, which I'll probably use to buy the next Yakuza game, which comes out this summer, Yakuza Kiwami, which is a remake of the first one. So this is actually still in its box. I haven't opened it yet because I don't have a game to. Well, Uncharted 4 is in the box, but I got Uncharted 3 for Christmas, and I need to play that first, I guess. So I'm also kind of keeping my eye out for a better PS4 deal. If I see it for like 210 or something like that, I'll return this and buy it cheaper. But I think 250 plus a $25 gift card is probably as good a deal as I'm going to get.
probably. Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy with everything. Icy or Wilson or whatever name you want to go by here says huge Shantae fan, own all the games, a few too many times. Um, I'm yeah, the original Shantae, the first one was Game Boy Color, I think. But one of them I think is at least on the Virtual Console. So I've played Pirate's Curse and on the Wii U, and I really enjoyed that. I'm enjoying Half-Genie Hero, and oh, funny capper to this whole story. The gentleman who got me who gifted me Shantae uh, contacted me on Twitter. He said, "Dude, I'm so sorry. I could have got you a Wii U code. I just didn't know." I'm like, "It's all right, dude. Don't worry about it." But hey, now that Steam pretty broadly supports PS4 controllers, I'm gonna have a hell of a lot easier time playing PC games if the
Nice.
mood strikes me. So, um, and Icy says the first one was Game Boy Color and it's on the eShop. Yeah, I thought it was. Is the second one on the eShop too? I don't remember. But I definitely want to pick those up because they are really fun, really charming games. I hear the first ones could really use a map, but if you're an old school gamer, we didn't need maps. Risky's Revenge was DSi Shop. Oh, I think they shut down the DSi Shop unless they ported some of that thing. I think DSi Shop has shut down.
Yeah,
Um,
I believe so because
maybe it's
it's a
ported over to
3DS shop
3DS,
now.
but yeah. I mean, I do. Do I have a DSi? No, I don't. My mom does. I may have to call her and say, "Mom, check see if the DSi shop is still up. Get me Shantae." Um. Anyway, so those are some games that we've been playing. I also played and beat real quickly played and beat Resident Evil 5. If y'all remember, it's the one that came after Resident Evil 4. Uh, it's it gets a lot of flack because that's not really a Resident Evil game, and that criticism is kind of right. It's more of an action shooter than a survival
Mhm.
horror. So, but it's a good action shooter. So, if you like action shooters, it's still a fun game. But yeah, it 4 is very action shootery, but it still manages to the tightrope walk of being an action shooter, but still staying true to the feeling of Resident Evil survival horror. Uh, Resident Evil 5 does not try, not at all, does not try at all. But it's a fun action shooter. I enjoyed playing through it.
Okay.
Scotty says you can get did games on 3DS eShop. Sorry, DSi. Oh, okay. DSi games on 3DS eShop. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll have to pick up the earlier Shantae games because I'm playing the series kind of backwards. Um, do I still own a working Dragon Warrior game? Yes, I own the first four, and they all work. So does the NES, which is at Mom's house. Better to grab the director's cut on Wii U. Director's cut of what is it? Risky's Revenge, I think, or is it for one? Yeah, one of them was a director's cut. You're right, which is where I'd get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
even though it is kind of pixelated, playing an old Game Boy game on the 60-inch high def screen. I played Pirate's Curse on the Wii U, and that's. I mean, it's almost one of the games. It's like, you know what? I might play it on the game. I might actually use off TV play for this one, but I ended up playing on the TV, and you adjust. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, there is one final thing I want to thought, and I want to ask, and it's kind of a philosophy thing. I have on my computer, I guess, an illegal pirated copy of Ace Attorney Investigations 2 because it was never released here. So I downloaded it and downloaded the emulator and turned it on and played like the first couple of minutes just to make sure it worked, and then stopped playing it with the idea that I just import the Japanese copy and put it on my shelf just to say I bought it and then go ahead and play it. It's out of print. I can't buy it anymore. And so I'm thinking, well, so should I just go ahead and play it? Or, I mean, I could buy it used. It's kind of expensive. It's like $35, $40 used, but Capcom doesn't see any of that because it's used. I can't, even if it's available on the Japanese eShop, I can't get to the Japanese eShop. Maybe there's a way I can. I don't know. I don't know of a way to access the Japanese eShop with my 3DS.
I don't think you can without.
Yeah, not without
hacking your system. Yeah,
3DS, but
you'd have to buy a Japanese 3DS,
which I'm totally not going to do. So I was thinking, well, okay, I don't pay more than like $20 for handheld games because I'm cheap, and I consider handheld games inferior. So I thought, well, okay, maybe I could buy like Professor Layton Cross Phoenix Wright, that game, for $45, which it's still going for, which I would never do, but I will in this case, and just kind of call it the purchase price of what I would pay for Phoenix Wright Cross Professor Layton and Ace Attorney Investigations 2, which is not exactly fair because that's not what it costs and might not ever be what it costs. And it's kind of a justification, but at least in that case, Capcom gets some money. So I haven't done anything yet. I'm just thinking about things. What do you think would be the best choice here?
Well, my personal opinion is if the game is not legally available for you to get, then apparently they don't want you to buy it. So then. But if you really want to play it, go right ahead. It's not like you're going to be denying them revenue because they don't want your money.
I guess I could play it with the caveat that as soon as it's made available, as soon as they print another run of it, either here or in Japan, I'll import it. But
yeah. Yeah, well, it's like, to me, take something like Earthbound. Okay, Earthbound is a very popular Super NES RPG.
Does Capcom have a Patreon?
But with Earthbound, it wasn't until recently that it was made available in the eShop or Virtual Console shop. But so if you ever wanted to play Earthbound before that, you had to pay $200 for a Super NES cartridge. And it's like, nobody has that kind of money outside of a small minority of people. And it's like, to buy one game. It's like, so piracy was your only option, but now you can pay $10 and get it, and or something like that. I forget what the actual price is.
I think it's $10. Yeah.
Yeah. So but now $10 is a nominal fee, and it's like to get that game. But yeah, for the longest time, it was pay $200 to $300, or just pirate it. So it's like the
Yeah.
vast majority of people who wanted to play it just wanted to play it, pirated it. Only collectors ever bought it. So, but yeah, I'm of the opinion if they don't want your money,
I
and
mean, I could write Capcom. I'm like, can I get you a check for $20? I mean, it was that cool.
I don't know.
I mean, because I would, if it was available. I mean, even if it were still in print in Japan, I'd import a copy, unless it was $100 or some absurd thing.
Yeah.
But because I really like the Phoenix Wright games, and I liked the first Ace Attorney game. So this, by the way, in case anyone was wondering, this is actually a fan translation a full fan translation that fans did. So, and really the only way you can't patch the game with the translation. As far as I know, there's no way to do that. Really, the only thing you can do is play the game on an emulator, play the patched game on an emulator. Hopefully you have the original copy, which is what I've looked for. But I can find it used, but I feel kind of bad getting a used copy because Capcom doesn't get any money from that, and I know that's the way the secondhand market works. But run the baked ROM, yeah. Anyway, so that's 2 hours for the show, for a 4-hour show. But hey, we missed the last 2 weeks, so
Yeah.
you get some extra quality time with the hosts of Molehill Mountain. But I think that's enough for 1 week because I really have to use the restroom and I'm hungry. So we're going to close the show here. So I guess we'll just. Icy says I can put the fan translation into a DSVC image to play on the Wii U. Really? Neat. There's lots of fun things you can do. The homebrew scene is just really neat. I understand why companies don't encourage that because it can be used for piracy. But there's so much neat stuff that can be done with this and is done with it. It's just a shame that those filthy pirates got to ruin everything. Anyway, so Andrew Eisen here, Eisen is how you spell the last name. Plug it into YouTube. You'll find my YouTube channel at Andrew Eisen is the Twitter, and Andrew Eisen YouTube is the Facebook page. So you can find me in all those places. Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Easy Night. You can follow my game development work at DK_gaming on Twitter, and that's DivineKnightGaming.com. And if you're interested in the Oklahoma game development scene, you can check out OK Game Devs on Twitter and OKGameDev.com.
All right. So thanks everyone who's been hanging out with us in the chat, and Icy again, thank you, and all the other folks that make cool stuff that allow gamers like picky gamers like me to play games like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE, and the way they originally meant to be presented. So that's our show for this week. We'll be back next Saturday, and we'll probably spend the entire time talking about whatever Nintendo shows us on Thursday and the following morning. So.
Yes.
All right, and I will do a reaction video. I don't think I'll do it live though. Because I think you guys would probably rather actually watch Nintendo's thing than watch me watch Nintendo's thing. But I'll either I'll put the entire thing up or an edited version or something. So look forward to that, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya.